All right, finna go to get it started. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Life of a Champ podcast, episode number 76, talking about build, break, and acquire. First things first, make sure you go ahead and like the YouTube Shorts as well as the TikToks, Life of a Champ podcast on TikTok. I post videos every single week on there, so if you don't have time to watch a full podcast, make sure you go ahead and at least follow on the TikTok and, like I said, watch the YouTube Shorts. A few more things I want to say. The idea for this video came from a conversation that I had with my little brother. So this is all going to be, for the most part, self-development based. Majority of the content that I do produce is self-development based, but this one in particular is going to give you a solid guide, I would say, to build, break, and acquire habits and skills and things like that. These are just going to be my personal takes, and I'm also going to give some suggestions as well. As I'm a person who's on my self-development journey and is entering his 5th year very very soon. I'll be 21 in December, so just at the time of this recording, just a little bit over a month. So, um, I can speak on a lot of these things because I've experienced and have done a lot of these things as well, and I've done countless hours of research on all of this that I'm about to talk about. So, um, if you're watching this, make sure to leave a like on the video. Also, let me know in the comments what your favorite part is, and then we'll go ahead and get a rocket from there. Anything else I gotta say? I think we'll get into it. Like I mentioned, this is going to give you a solid foundation. If you are a person who is aimlessly walking through this world, this is definitely going to be a good video for you because it's going to give you a strong foundation for self development, right? So this is going to be my observations and, like I said, my experiences and something that I would recommend for sure. So first things first, I would say within the first 5 years of your self development journey, I would suggest for you to build 10 to 15 habits that you can either have a phase of where you go through those habits, or you actually attach some of those habits to your daily routine and make that part of your what you do minimally on a daily basis, right? So for example, I'm going to give you some examples of these habits that I have done or tried or currently doing, right? So some of these things include reading for me personally. I've read. I've had periods of times where I read, and it's something I definitely need to get back onto because that is something that I'm going to recommend for everybody to at least, at the very least, have a phase, and is something that I would recommend being a habit that you attach um, to your daily or even weekly at the very very least, because it is one of the most beneficial habits long term, right? It's the compound effect with books is one of the most beautiful things on this earth, that's for sure. So I would say reading. Another habit that I used to do, which was journaling, that's definitely another good habit that I would recommend as well. Just kind of getting down your thoughts for the day, and like I said, if you're dealing with some emotions, I feel like that's the proper way to go about that. Because unless you want to go ahead and talk with somebody about it, but if you do not want to talk to anyone or you don't have anyone to talk about your emotions with, definitely recommend doing the journaling route for sure. Another thing, another habit that I would recommend is going to be, if you don't have it already, make sure you have a face cleaning routine for sure. That is something that I picked up and something that I definitely recommend to everybody, because if your skincare isn't up to where you need it to be, it's gonna show, right? And the first thing people look at is your face for the most part, your body and your face. So to give off a good first impression, that is something I would recommend. Another habit that I used to do, what's another one? Oh, the gym, of course. I still do that one. That is another habit that I would recommend, and I will always recommend everyone to do. Right, this is something that I picked up within the last 2 years, so definitely something I would recommend for sure. I'll give you another habits just real quick. Um, you could do things like cold showers as well. Cold showers is one that I did for a little bit, but it's not something that I currently do or something that I've done for an extended period of time. But it has a lot of great benefits. And these things I'm also talking about. I've done, like I said, I've done countless hours of research of what people would recommend certain habits for you to pick up. So yeah, I'll go ahead and get started with that, right? So build these 10 to 15 habits, and this is going to give you, like I said, the solid foundation. And like I said, you don't need to have all these habits attached to your person all the time, right? There's going to be seasons of where you need certain things and you feel like you need it, and you will do it. And there's going to be seasons where you, like I said, you just do it because you know you haven't done it before, right? And with that being said, just going through those, I would say 10 to 15 at the very least. At the very least, 10. Just go through those habits because, Like I said, like there's just going to be a lot of things that you need to add to your day because your day is not exactly as fulfilling or as productive as it can possibly be. And adding those 10 to 15 habits is going to put you in a great position, especially over a period of like over 10 to 15 over 3 years, right? It's going to give you a great foundation for sure. Another thing I would say with building those habits is also breaking. This is the breaking part of the video, right? Breaking 5 to 7 of your bad habits, if not more, depending on how much bad habits you have. There are certain things that I had to do and cut off because, quite frankly, it was not serving my better self. And that is the process of getting better in this world, right? And just maturing as a person, is being able to recognize what is holding you back, and recognizing when you outgrow certain things, right? So this is something that I had to do, and something that, like I said, everybody goes through, and everybody, honestly, everybody struggles with to try to get past some of these habits, right? So for me, for example, right, a habit that I had to break was video games, right? Me being on video games, I wasn't a huge gamer. I never was a huge gamer, but it was something that I did maybe like once a day, or like maybe like a few times a week. And yeah, that is something that I recognized at a very early age, that it wasn't gonna really do anything for me, and it was kind of, like I said, fruitless. Pretty much, it was pretty much fruitless because I'm not gonna pursue gaming in any type of way. So why spend the hours focused on something that I'm not really gonna pursue long term? So that's kind of the way I personally, that's kind of the way I personally look at things. Right? Is this gonna benefit me long term? And if it's not benefiting me long term, then there's honestly no point of doing it. Um, and this could be anything. This could be any specific habit. This could be stopping vices. This could be removing people out of your life, even though it's not exactly a habit, but habit of staying away from toxic people. This could be things like that, right? Also, if you are, like I said, if you're rewatching this, make sure you go ahead and leave a like on the video. Give me 1 second. That was weird. All right. All right. Along with breaking these habits, I would also say you need to acquire 5 to 7 new skills as well, right? This is something that you need to focus on. And what I would do personally, if I had to go back and do it over again, right? I would take these metrics that I've used, and I would specifically write out what I wanted to do, and what sounds interesting to me in the current moment, and what are things that maybe I'm not ready to do right now, but I eventually want to do in this 5 year period, like I had mentioned, right? Um, getting those things down. Like I said, having 10 to 15 habits where you write them down, and this is something I did with my little brother, right? He was writing down certain habits that he wanted to do, and I was kind of naming some of the habits that I found to be really really productive and really really fruitful for me. So I kind of gave him my recommendations, and I would definitely say reading needs to be on there. Like I said, the other ones can be interchangeable depending on what you would like to do and what you're trying to achieve. But I would say reading most definitely needs to be on there at the very least. But yeah, I would say write down the things that, like I said, maybe you're not prepared to do it right now, but eventually it sounds interesting and it sounds like something you want to eventually get to. Um, and you got to think long term with this, right? I would say let's just spend this out 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 years, pick up 10 to 15 habits, right? Like I said, they're gonna come in seasons. Sometimes, like for example, right? I want to say sometime around last year, I did like 100 and I think like 60 or 70 days of journaling, and it was really really good. It was really really good. I would say it helped me in the ways that I needed to be helped. It was good because, like I said, it made me really really present in the moment, which is something that not a lot of people have habits that do that for them. So it was definitely one of those habits that put me in the moment, and like I said, allowed me to evaluate my emotions and how I was feeling, and allowed me to think and reflect on the days that I had. And it also is a great tool because I can eventually, in the future, or I could even do it right now because I'm technically in the future now. I can go back and see kind of how my days were going around that time period in my life. So I think that's pretty interesting as well. So yeah, that's something I would recommend for sure as well because it can help you. Like I said, it just depends on what you need personally. But yeah, 10 to 15 habits. Write down 10 to 15 habits that you find interesting. Break 5 to 7 habits. What are 5 to 7 habits that you eventually want to get past? Because, like I said, you need to evolve. You're going to need to evolve. So that means letting go of your past self to let your future self emerge, right? The only way your future self is going to emerge is if you're willing to drop those certain things that are holding you back. That eventually, like I said, at the very least, you're going to recognize that, you know what, I could be doing something better with my time, right? Let me think of another one of the habits that I've dropped. Another habit that I've dropped, I would say to an extent, arguing with people. Not that it was exactly a habit of mine, but it was like a tendency that I had. I really don't argue too much nowadays compared to, let's just say, where I was a few years ago. Right? I don't take the time to argue. I really don't. It's not worth your energy. And if you could avoid, I won't say avoid arguing. I'm not saying avoid confrontation or avoid potential conflict. I'm saying understand when it is worth your time and worth your energy and when it's not. And for the most part, it's really not. So it's not necessary to do. So I would say that's another thing that I've broke. Um, yeah, I would say that's pretty good. Another habit that I would recommend. This is going to be completely off topic. It's something that I've spoke about, but I'm gonna say it because I feel like it just needs to be said and something that all men need to hear. Quite frankly, this is going to be picking up the habit of nofap. Right. This is something the first time. This is one of the first times I've talked about this on the channel specifically. But yeah, understanding nofap and understanding the harsh consequences that it can have on the brain, especially the young male impressionable brain that is, like I said, just very very impressionable. So, and also look into semen retention as well. This is something that is a very very vital when it comes to trying to become a man of substance. If you're not able to, like I mentioned on my last podcast, the 30 Champ Commandments. If you haven't watched that one, make sure you go look back into that one. Conquer the beast of lust. That is the process of conquering the beast of lust. Is starting nofap, of having periods of time where you do not partake in selfish pleasure. Let's just say that. And like I said, semen retention. This is something that I've learned uh, within a few books actually that I've read. That kind of had some of the foundations of what makes a man great, and that was some of the things that they had said. They also they used the term sexual transmutation, which is basically the same thing as nofap and the same thing as semen retention. But you can they're all their guess I guess they're individual things. They all pretty much had the same type of foundation of what they're built on. But yeah, sexual transmutation is what it's called, and it's basically the process of taking the energy that you have and transmutating it into a productive endeavor. And that is something that I'm going to recommend for sure because, like I said, there's a lot of temptation in this world, and there's a lot of lust in this world. But trying to become a man of substance, this is recognizing that there is that in the world, and there also is another way to avoid these things because these things do not need to be focused on all the time, and especially not as much as society kind of shoves it in your face. So learning to avoid that is definitely going to be a habit that will put you pretty much in front of a lot of people. I want to say more than like 80% of the male population. So that is something I'm going to recommend. And a habit that I broke myself. Like I said, we could we could talk about that, right? Because I've gotten past that time of my life, and like I said, most men do not never even think about anything otherwise than, like I said, that selfish pleasure. But you break that habit because that habit is not going to serve you. And if you haven't started that habit, never start that habit because it's not good. You can look into the negative aspects of that, and there's so many, and also so many benefits of not doing it. So if you don't have any, if you don't have any ideas of what the benefits are, I can make a separate video. And if you're watching this and you want to hear my take on no fap, semen retention, sexual transmutation, and all that, I can make a separate podcast. But like I said, I would just need somebody to let me know in the comments. But with that being said, acquiring 5 to 7 skills as well that will benefit your entire life. So some of these habits that I've picked up on are going to be video editing. That is one thing that I picked up within the last year. Also, doing this public speaking type deal, I guess. Just becoming comfortable with speaking and becoming comfortable in my own shoes, pretty much, which is it has developed this year. I would say I'm almost a year in to doing this podcast, so that is definitely something that I would recommend is to do and to work on speech because speech is super super important when it comes to portraying your message and also like I said, just trying to communicate with people. This is something that is so key. It's something that is so slept on. I would say it's still very very slept on because it's not a conscious effort of most people. So that is something I would recommend. Another skill that I've acquired, I would say I'm gonna say I'm a really really good observer, and I feel like that is a skill in itself, right? Recognizing the way society is going is definitely a skill, right? It's becoming conscious of some of these things that, like I said, society's trying to portray and trying to push this narrative on you, and you got to understand that there's another way. There's another way. You can be an observer and make your own opinions and right and like I said, just be a conscious learner, pretty much, which is something that I talked about in my last podcast. But yeah, that's what I will say. And with it, with all these, it's something you need to be very, very conscious of a focus on is going to be creating a new identity, right? This is ultimately what all these things are doing. You know, breaking bad habits, creating new habits, and acquiring new skills. This all goes hand in hand with creating a new identity for yourself, right? And if you're a person like I had mentioned is a person who is focused on self development, like that is going to be a strong foundation to eventually change your identity. And you need to be changing your identity every so often because you cannot stay the same. You should never stay the same. And anyone that tells you to stay the same is not a person you want around, and not somebody that you want to be listening to. Because quite frankly, it's not gonna really benefit you as much as you think it could be, or could rather. But yeah, create a new identity for yourself. What person do you want to be? What person do you want to be? You have to ask yourself these questions. What are certain habits that this person has? Right? What certain things do they stay away from doing? Right? What skills does this person adopt over time? So these are all things you got to create and think about in order to create that new identity. And with that being said, one thing I want to mention, this is something that I picked up on in the book Atomic Habits. This is a good piece of game right here. Is every single time you do a habit, good or bad, you essentially have a tally that is going to create the identity. So let's just say you do a bad habit, right? That is a tally for the identity that you're upholding when you have that negative habit, right? So you are becoming more of that person who does that habit, obviously, when you increase your tallies, right? And if you have a lot more tallies on the bad habits and you do the good habits, then quite frankly, it's going to show. You're going to feel it, and you're not going to be as fulfilled as you possibly can be. But you got to kind of see it as that, right? Every single time you do a good habit, you are adding another tally to the identity that you want to uphold, and that is definitely very, very important. And like I said, it's an interesting way to look at it, and something that I didn't exactly think about in that specific way until I read that book. But yeah, that is definitely something that is great for sure. So yeah, make sure you add in the tallies on the skills and the good habits, and also adding onto the tallies of the bad habits that you're getting rid of. So um, do that as much as you possibly can for sure. Other than that, I'm trying to think of some more habits that I would recommend. Also a habit I'm going to recommend if you're trying to improve your speech and you don't want to do podcasts or anything like that. I would recommend doing like recording yourself. I would say doing a audio at the very least, but doing a a video, actual video of yourself. That is something that I would recommend because it's going to allow you to see your mannerisms and your body language and things like that, and you can kind of pick up on, are you really portraying the exact message and the exact type of demeanor and like I said, the exact body language that you want people to see? Are you projecting what you want people to see? And I feel like that's very, very important. So making those adjustments and doing it where you can actually see yourself, right? That's going to give you different outlook for sure, and something that at the very start it's going to be a little awkward, but with all things you're going to be a beginner, and you're going to suck at it at first, and it's going to feel awkward, and you're going to feel very self conscious, but eventually you're going to get better with it. Just as I did on this podcast right now, I'm way more comfortable than I was when I first started this podcast. So if you want to be a person who can be on camera, that is definitely going to be the route to go. And just seeing yourself speak, like it's just gonna do a whole lot for you. It's gonna do a whole lot for you. One of the most slept on habits, I would say. I'm just gonna think of another one. Another one that I would recommend, and this is something that I picked up on this year. This is going to be avoiding your phone. Avoiding your phone on in certain periods of the day. The period of the day that I would recommend is going to be in the morning because yeah, this is a habit that I did for I think like a few months actually, a few months in the last, let's just say like 5 months, right? And within this time, I started my days where I didn't have my phone. I didn't go on my phone for the first 3 hours of my day, and it's a habit that I've talked about on this podcast plenty of times because it is so beneficial when it comes to um, allowing your thoughts to come to you. Not many people have organic thoughts anymore, right? You go on your phone, you see a few things that are not relevant to your life, and those things become your thoughts. Those things become the things that you're thinking about because that is the input that you're getting. But now, if you remove the inputs, you allow yourself to focus on the things that maybe you need to focus on more, and you allow raw thoughts to come to you, right? And that is something that doesn't happen very much nowadays, right? Like I said, society and social media pretty much dictate exactly what you think about, right? you have some free will when it comes to your thoughts, but most of your thoughts and most of the things you, like I said, most of your thoughts are going to be dictated based off of the media that you consume on a daily basis, right? So if you start your day without that, a lot of the thoughts come to you naturally. That's a whole different perspective. That's a whole different perspective right there. Um, like even in the shower, right? There's people that are on the phone in the shower, right? Like that's it's ridiculous. Like you got to understand the points and times of the day where you feel it is necessary to get off your phone, and you got to know when to lock in, right? You got to know when to lock in and when to be completely. I wouldn't say completely consumed, but when is an appropriate time to go on your phone and when it's not, right? And not having those points conflict, because if they conflict, you're not going to be as focused as you need to be in certain moments. And if you're a person who wants to be focused and wants to be self-disciplined, that is definitely going to be a habit that at first is going to feel a little uncomfortable, but you're going to get past the uncomfortable part, and then it's just going to be nothing but more benefits than you can imagine, pretty much. Yeah, so that's definitely something that I picked up and something I would recommend for sure. Also, if I can give you some advice on some skills that I would recommend, is so like I said, acquire 5 to 7 skills that will benefit your life. I would say sales. Sales is going to give you a different type of view, um, on kind of how to talk to people with an objective. And I know that is kind of weird because it's not exactly 100% natural conversation, but it allows you to kind of, I want to kind of have a reason to talk to somebody, but it allows you. I appreciate that, KJ. Um, yeah, but it allows you to think. It allows you to think in those certain ways. Give me 1 second. Hold up. Hey, KJ, you missing out, my dog. You missing out, man. Me and Anthony already got it in today. You already know what time it is, man. Yeah, so skills. So like I said, sales is going to be a great skill to have because you're going to become more personable. This is something that I did within this year, or I technically midway through last year, right, and early on this year. Is I was in sales, and yeah, it's gonna allow you to really try to make conversation with different types of people, and allows you to be more comfortable with yourself and kind of how you speak. It allows you to focus on things like eye contact. It allows you to kind of lead the interaction a certain way, right? Because you have that leverage because you are leading the interaction. So certain things like that definitely going to be very beneficial and something that you can take on for the rest of your life and something that you can master. And if you're a person who's really good at sales, you can make a good living off of it, for sure. Another skill that I would recommend, uh, another skill I would recommend. This is something that I have definitely honed in on, and I wouldn't say mastered completely, but it's damn near almost mastery. Is utilizing your resources in a way that is going to benefit you. Right? We have the most powerful resource that exists in human history, which is going to be the internet. Right? With that being said, if you're a person who doesn't know how to get exactly what he needs out of the internet, then you need to do more research and you need to spend more time consciously trying to learn and consciously trying to put effort forth, with utilizing the greatest resource that we've ever had, right? There's so many things you can learn and so many answers you can have solved, and or rather, problems you can have solved because you have the greatest resource that exists. You can get people's takes on certain things. You can research certain things specifically. And I feel like a lot of people are just lazy. They don't take the time to do these things, do the research on certain things, right? Like for me, for example, right? Some of the things that I've done research on that has helped me out greatly, and this is something that I talked about in my last podcast, is going to be the female and male dynamic, and not only the female male dynamic, but more specifically the masculinity and femininity dynamic. This is something that you would think doesn't have too much of an effect of how you approach interactions, but it is night and day. It is night and day when you're conscious of these things, when you can kind of recognize and feel people's energies, and you can kind of tell they're a certain way and kind of how they want to be treated, and kind of what they expect out of an interaction. Just doing certain things like that and becoming very skilled with utilizing your resources is going to go a long way, right? If you struggle with, I don't know, if you struggle with women, or if you are trying to build a business, or if you're trying to learn about a skill, right? Utilizing your resources on the internet is going to be one of the most important things you can possibly do. And also just being self-taught in those specific ways as well. Like it's going to reap a lot more benefits than the average person. The average person, I would say, uses the internet but doesn't know how to use the internet. KJ, come, hey KJ, if you're watching this, man, block the person that's in the chat, man. I don't know why it's like that, man. I don't know why it's like that, man. Block that. If you do it, appreciate it. Appreciate it. Nightbot still in here? I guess so. All right. Other than that, another habit that I would recommend you having. Let me think. Let me think. I'm trying to think of some of the ones that I have. Or if there's something that you need to break the bad habit of negative self talk. Right. I'm a person who is very conscious of you know of people's self talk around me. Right. I like for example, I'll give you this one example. Right. I was at the gym the other day. D, appreciate you stopping by, my guy. I was in the gym the other day, and there was this girl next to me. What is going on? What is going on? I'm about to get Nightbot's ass up out of here, man. My bad about that. But like I was saying, right, there was this girl in the gym, and she was right next to me, and she was saying certain things that were just negative. Like I don't know why anyone would even say these things, like "Oh, I can't do it," or like "Oh, I'm getting really tired." And if you're here's the thing, if you're tired, that's one thing. But if you're gonna complain about it, and if you're gonna, you know, if you're gonna do the absolute most when it comes to negative self talk, and it was so bad. I only give you a few examples, but and I was just like, man, that could never be me, and it's not a good look. It's definitely not a good look if you're talking down on yourself. Yeah, it's just a bad look. But other than that, if you are a person in here right now and you're a person that's heavy on self development, what are certain habits that you would recommend somebody to do? So the break, the build, break, and acquire it looks something like this. This is going to be the foundation. So, like I said, if you're watching this, maybe you can help out some of the people watching this as well. Um, it's building 10 to 15 habits within the first 5 years of your self development journey, breaking 5 to 7 of your bad habits, and acquiring 5 to 7 skills. So I want you, if you're watching this, if you can give me one habit that you would recommend somebody to have that I haven't exactly mentioned already. What is one thing that you would tell them to break? What is a habit that most people do that you would tell them to break? And also, what is one skill that you'd recommend somebody to acquire within these next, let's just say, 5 years, 3 to 5 years? Okay, and then yeah, like I said, it's just all about creating the new identity for yourself, right? You got to reinvent yourself sometimes because sometimes your old self is not good enough, right? And with that being said, it's time to create a new identity. And there's like I said, there's going to be seasons where some of these skills, some of these habits apply more better than others, but it just kind of knowing yourself and knowing um when to actually turn up these habits and when to maybe let go of some of these habits even if they are good, because sometimes there's going to be points and times where your time could be better spent somewhere else. But yeah, I definitely recommend those for sure. I'm trying to think of some more habits, like more habits that I've learned from other people. Not exactly that I've exactly applied, but habits that I've learned from other people. Meditation is definitely a good one that I've done as well. Meditation, breath work, stretching. These are all ones that I've done or I'm currently doing. Meditation is something that I would recommend everyone to do, especially if you're a person who deals with anxiety or you have um, depression tendencies. That is definitely something that I would recommend. It allows you to be way more in the moment. And allows you to focus on hopefully nothing, right? For at least a 10-minute period, a 5 minute period, a 15-minute period, whatever amount you can handle, right? Meditation for sure. Breath work along with meditation is ideal. And yeah, stretching is also a good one that I used to do for, I want to say I did it for a few months as well, which is very good for your body and your flexibility. And if it's a habit that you always do and something that you can adopt every single day, your mobility is gonna be way better than pretty much anybody's mobility. Especially later on in the later years in life, it's just gonna be night and day. So yeah, those are some of the things that I used to do as well. I'm trying to think what else did I used to do. Oh, I used to do this as well. Another habit that I would recommend is going to be your 3 moments of gratitude. So 3 points throughout the day. You can have specific time or even timers or like alarms where when it goes off or when it is that time where you actually sit down for a second, allow yourself to be in the moment and think about things that you are grateful for. Like I said, moments of gratitude. So I would let's just say I think I had it. I think it was at 11 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and I think at 9 o'clock is when I had them. Where I would just sit down for a second and I would say maybe three things where I'm grateful for, and they wouldn't be the same thing every single day. So I'd be like, I'm grateful for just allowing to be in a place where I have air conditioning, right? Certain things like that, or heating, right? Um, those little things. My guy, you're crazy, boy. Here's the thing: once you get on that vibe, boy, you're off the edge, boy. You're off the edge right there. Nah, my guy, I can't do that, my guy. With Natty around here, come on now. If you can't do a Natty, then you're off that, man. Simple. Come on now. Just put in the work, man. Put in the years, man. Simple as that. You ain't gotta hop on no cycle, man. You just gotta put the years in, man. Years in. Yes, I said years. So yeah, those are going to be some of the habits that I would recommend. Like I said, build up 10 to 15 habits, break 5 to 7 of your bad habits, and acquire 5 to 7 skills throughout this time. Give me one second. I'm gonna see if I can get rid of that. Years exactly. He knows better than anybody, right? Shout out to Eric. Shout out to Eric. Um, like I said, he put in the years. He put in the years. He said, "Hop on a cycle, boy. You crazy, boy. I don't know what you on, boy, but you ain't on. You ain't on what you're supposed to be. That's for sure." It's got to be another way. Like I said, you got to put the years in, man. You got to put the years in, man. I'm almost at 2 years. I'll be 2 years beginning of next year. 2 years in the gym. So, like I said, a habit that I'm always going to recommend. It's a healthy lifestyle, and if you're not working out, you're getting outworked. Simple as that. Can't let these people outwork you, man. Can't let these people outwork you. Let me see if I got anything else. Yeah. So yeah, one thing I want to mention before I go ahead and end it off is every single time you choose to do a bad habit or a good habit, you are creating an identity, and every single time you do a good habit, you're putting a tally down for the identity that you're trying to uphold. That is a good habit, or that is a good identity. And every single time you do a bad habit, you're adding a tally to your negative or lacking self identity. So kind of look at it that way because that is kind of the way it is, right? So if you are a person who um, is doing bad habits, or let's just say you picked up a lot of good habits and you started doing more of your bad habits, you're slowly going down a negative counter loop. And obviously, in this life, you want to be filled with nothing but positive counter loops. So make sure you go ahead and I would say pick up too many good habits at the same time, right? I would say my recommendation is probably pick up like maybe 1 to 2. I would say 2 to 3 habits at a time because if you're juggling a bunch of different things, your day can be a little bit more structured than it probably needs to be, and it's easy to fall off of those things, and it leads to disappointment through my own personal perception and through my own personal experiences. So I'd recommend picking up 2 to 3 habits at a time and going from there for sure. So, like I said, what are certain habits that you want to pick up? What are certain things that you want to stop doing? And what are certain skills you want to start working on? These are all questions you're going to need to ask yourself. But other than that, fellas, I'm going to go ahead and end it off. So if you're rewatching this, make sure you go ahead and leave a like. And also, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the podcast as well. Also, I just posted a video. It's an 8-minute long video talking about uh, the double standard of being overweight. So if you don't have enough time to watch a full podcast, I made 8-minute clips. See you this week. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And what else? What else? Yeah. So make sure you go ahead and tap in with that. I also posted some shorts today, so make sure you go tap in with that. Like I said, TikTok, Life of a Champ podcast. Make sure you go ahead and follow that as well. Other than that, this was episode number 76 of the Life of a Champ podcast, talking about build, break, and acquire habits and new skills. If you guys have a podcast recommendation that you want me to do next week, make sure you go ahead and leave it in the comments. But other than that, you guys have a good rest of your night. And before I go, one more piece of game that I want to leave you guys off on is this right here, fellas. Out here, we don't just work around here, man. We outwork. So make sure you outworking these motherfuckers every single day. You guys have a good rest of your night, and until next week.